Hey, it's your Pan-African World Diaspora Champion, Trish Adora, and you are watching O-Face Wrestling.
Hey everyone, thanks for joining us today on O Face Wrestling. This is your host JT, and today I'm joined by the Pan-African World Champion, the Queen of DC, Trish Adora. So thanks for joining us today, Trish.
Hey, thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
No problem at all. I mean, ever since I've started interviewing wrestlers on the show, you've been extremely high on my list. So this is like a huge honor having you on the show tonight.
Yay. Oh, that's dope. I appreciate that.
No problem at all. So, let's get this started, Trish. So, the first question I have for you. So, you were in the army for like what, 4 years, I believe?
Eight.
8 years. Wow. So, what led to you making the decision to join the army?
So, yeah, it was really a decision out of necessity. It was mostly me just going like, at the time I was waiting tables. So, one of my coworkers was like, "Hey, do you want to join the army with me?" And I'm like, I'm 19, you know what I mean? I don't really understand what that meant. I mean, I saw a couple war movies and I understood, but I just didn't understand fully what I was signing up for. So naturally, I did it. And I filled out all my paperwork and I talked with my mom about it afterwards because I knew she was like not going to be not going to be cool with it. So I decided to go ahead and make the decision, you know, without telling her first.
It kind of reminds me, I don't know if you've ever seen the movie called In the Army Now, where the two guys, it was like two their best friends, and they needed money and they're like, oh well, the army, they offer you like $4,000 up front or something like that. And they're thinking of all the perks, and then they join and they're like, wow, like, this is like really scary and all. Because I couldn't do it, to be honest with you. And it's crazy because I have a lot of family members who are in the military. My dad was Air Force, mom was Navy, uncles are in the army. My Both of my grandfathers were in the military. I don't know what branch they're in, but yeah, it's not for everyone, and I know it wouldn't have been for me. My dad pushed Air Force on me like my whole life, basically. But so you said you were in for 8 years, so obviously you really liked it.
Yeah, I definitely had a good time throughout. I learned a lot about myself. I learned a lot about, my emotional and mental capacity, which is an important lesson to, everybody kind of figures that out through some lesson in their own lives, their own way. And that was kind of how I really just understood a little bit more about what it meant to really be human and more about the human experience.
Okay. Yeah, it makes sense. That kind of goes, with the next question I was going to ask you. I was going to ask you, like, how do you feel like it changed you, like, after you were done? So you kind of, like, answered that for me. So now, like, after the army, that's when you started wrestling. So what inspired you to start becoming a professional wrestler?
Yeah, so once I deployed in 2012, and at the end of my deployment, I was just kind of, I still had a couple more years left, and I was just trying to figure out what my next steps were. I knew I don't know, I don't think that, emotionally or mentally I could sustain, for some people are lifers, they join the military and they know that they can pour their life into it. And, other people are down for a season and it's all good either way, and I decided to do something that was for me. And the reason I joined the army was really just, I embarrassingly enough, I failed out of college, you know what I mean? And it was like when that's your shot to, you know, to do it, you're kind of like, oh crap, how am I supposed to change my circumstances? They kind of only tell you that it's school or the military, you know what I mean? So I was like, shoot, all right. So then once I exhausted, or felt that I exhausted those options, I decided to pack up all my stuff and move to Florida and figure it out on the way. I left DC with like $2,000, which was a very bad idea. Don't ever do that. Make sure you have more money before you move cross country. Um, so it was just a huge learning experience throughout. But I'm really happy that I did it. I always wanted to, when I was younger, you'd watch wrestling with like your family and stuff, and me and my dad and my five brothers, we'd all crowd around the TV, and it would be like such an intimate thing. And I just would always remember that old smoky
Hmm.
WCW ring. and I don't know, I just could never really get that sound out of my head, I guess. So let me hear.
So you said like you went to Florida. Is that where you trained?
Yes, I trained at Team 3D Academy in Kissimmee, Florida.
Okay, yeah, I've heard a lot of wrestlers train there, so it seems like it's a pretty legit place. When you were going through like the training and all, like how rough was that on your body at first?
Well, there's a different type of physicality that you need for professional wrestling that's really different from any other physical sport that most people do. For me, I played rugby for a year when I was in college, and then just being in the army kind of gives you sort of become a callus somewhat. You just kind of harden your body to those types of hits. But wrestling it'll just take the wind out of you in just ways that you never really thought. Even like just mentally, just what you have to do will mentally exhaust you to the point where your heart will start beating faster and you're just like, but I'm not tired. But your throat starts closing up and it's just like just a whole nother game. So the toll on my body, I mean, I feel good for the most part, but definitely just being dizzy a lot initially, having like sore shoulders, lots of bruises that come with just trying to get reps in to learn.
Yeah, because like that's the thing. A lot of people don't realize how much of a toll it takes. And I never realized because I knew like obviously like you're really getting slammed and all as much as people want to say it's fake, like you're getting slammed on that mat. But you don't realize how hard that mat is until you actually go to a live event. Like it is loud every time you all get slammed down. And I'm like, that has to hurt. And I've even heard like a lot of stories like just like running the ropes, like that hurts too. And that's something you'll never think of that it would actually hurt, but you don't realize how thick and tight them ropes are and all that. So, and then, as far as like the mental, stress that it can cause, especially being on the indies, like I know you all do a lot of traveling and, from what I've heard from other wrestlers, a lot of promotions don't necessarily pay for the travel expense. So it's kind of like you're doing everything on your, with your own money and stuff like that. So it can be very stressful, and that's why like I appreciate you all, especially when you take like the long trips, because I know some wrestlers they stay in their area, other wrestlers travel a little bit further. So I mean, yeah, it's very, very stressful. And then, obviously, I have to imagine it's stressful, like when you're in a match, especially if it's someone you're not familiar with, because, you have to make sure you're protecting each other. You have to trust this person to make sure that you could do these moves safely without getting hurt. Good examples when Undertaker fought Goldberg at the Saudi Arabia show. Goldberg almost killed Undertaker, with I think the suplex. So it's very dangerous, and I would be terrified being in the ring, doing those moves and stuff like that. So yeah, I totally get it and understand.
Yeah, just it becomes, when, you're driving long distance and then 8 hours later you finally get there and then, maybe you're not really getting exactly what you asked for. So, you take a little bit of a cut. Maybe that just kind of, bugs you out for a little while, gets in your head a little bit. And then there's an opponent maybe you're not familiar with, maybe things aren't gelling. And it's just like so much that goes into it. And then like mid-match you realize you're hungry because y'all raced there and you didn't have time to stop, you didn't have enough money for gas, and so now it's gas or food, and it just, sometimes it gets stressful, especially independent, because you just got to be prepared to front a lot of those costs. That is just something that really surprised me. Not really surprised me, but I mean, it was a nice shake. It was a
Hmm.
very, rude awakening, so to speak. So.
Yeah. So, as far as like you mentioned, like the traveling and all, like prior to COVID, like how often were you being booked and like traveling and all that?
Yeah, so the week would a week would go like I would work maybe my normal job. I was working at Sephora at the time. So I would work there Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. And then Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, I would either drive to North Carolina, get the carload together. We kind of run everybody's shows. And even if I wasn't on a show, usually I'd just end up in the carload along for the ride that weekend. Or, if I had a show on Sunday, I'd start with them. And then, we kind of just get it all situated like that. Come Monday, we're all back at home base in North Carolina trying to decompress, going to train, getting everything situated. drive back up to DC for work on Tuesday, and it happens all over again. So there was maybe like I was averaging about 2 shows a weekend, very like, on average. So I was getting the opportunity to work at least 4 times a month, which is really good. I do miss having that consistent work like that, but having the time off definitely opens your eyes up to a lot of just other parts of the game that don't really involve being in the ring and wrestling another person. You know what I'm saying? There's so many things that get neglected along the way. And I'm really big on training. I'm sorry, I don't know if I'm rambling, but
I know you're good.
but I'm really big on training. So I've been training up with Jonathan Gresham for the past couple of weeks, and even through Ring of Honor for the past year as well. So prior to COVID, so just trying to stay up on my training and making sure that those parts are sharp. So, and trying not to cry too much about that WrestleMania weekend. It was gonna be great, but.
Yeah, because like that's the thing with COVID. Like, as terrible of a circumstance as it is, it does give you all that opportunity to physically heal, get a nice little mental detox and stuff like that. And it also like allows you all to kind of like figure things out, like if you wanted to do a little add a little spice to your character. And I'm seeing a lot of wrestlers out there, independent WWE, like doing all Twitch, YouTube, so it kind of allows them to kind of get themselves out there using utilizing social media, which is the big thing nowadays. Like, it's a lot easier to get your name out there on social media versus word of mouth. So it gives people the opportunity to grow in different ways as well. It just, like I mentioned, it just kind of sucks that, the expense of COVID-19 and all that. So I was actually like really lucky and very grateful that I got to see you at Primetime Wrestling like a week or 2 before everything started closing down, so yeah. So, and wrestling has been, picking up and all. Like, I know a lot of promotions are doing outdoor events. I was in New Jersey in July when I went to the Goddesses Award, and I'll be going there end of the month. Actually, by the time this recording drops, it would already have happened though. But yeah, so it's like a new thing, like wrestling outdoors, especially like in July. It's hot. It is hot, and I know that has to be different for a lot of y'all too. Like, I saw a Holiday match, and her like halfway through her match, her face paint's all like sweated off and stuff like that. So, have you had any opportunities of doing any outdoor venues at all?
Not just yet, but I will coming up. GCW is having their invasion up in Indiana, and I will be wrestling Queen Aminata and defending my baby September 26th. So that'll be a good time. That'll be an outdoor event, I believe. So.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I'm sponsoring that event too, so that's really cool. Yeah, I saw your name on there. I was like, I got a sponsor, and of course, I really like Savannah Evans as well. So I was like, you both are there. I definitely want to sponsor this. So yeah, that's really cool. I'm hoping that it's going to be available to stream, I'm assuming.
On IWTV, you know what? Don't quote me, because I don't want to say so and it not be the case. But I believe it will be on IWTV. I will. I can do an update on my social media and just kind of keep it. Well, you said this will be recorded.
Yeah, well, I talked to the owner of the promotion, communicates with me often, so I could ask him as well. And I'm actually going to be subscribing to that IWTV network thing anyway to watch Mission Pro Wrestling, so that's going to work out perfectly fine for me. So what was the next question I had? So wrestling related to I asked you on our Q&A for the website about like what was your favorite thing about being a professional wrestler. Now I have to ask them, what's your least favorite thing about being a wrestler? If there is a favorite thing.
Everything's great about wrestling. No, I'm just kidding. Honestly, as far as my realm and how I feel my place in the ecosystem of independent wrestling, I do think that politics is just it's a kick in the pants that you kind of just, I don't think that politics is particularly helpful to wrestling per se. And I'm not just saying that because I'm not someone that, a lot of times people will say like, oh, you're just saying that because, you're not receiving any benefit that you would want to continue to protect. So it's not really the case with that per se. I just see a lot of people get suckered out of a lot of opportunities, and it's really just a political, it's just a political game. And to me, wrestling's a sport. It's an art, and politics is not really, it just doesn't belong in wrestling. And I'm just, that's all. I'm just going to stop there.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you. I mean, me personally, I hate politics, especially in wrestling. And like I get the gist of what you're saying. Like I've interviewed a few wrestlers, and I will never use names or promotions or anything like that. But I've had wrestlers say like, "Hey, like I don't get booked in these promotions that are by where I live. I have to venture out a little further because I'm not what they're looking for." Basically, like when it comes to their look and stuff like that. And that really sucks. Like, a promotion wants a certain type of look and stuff like that. And it's sad. Like I like promotions that are very diverse, and going back to Primetime Wrestling, that was a very diverse, promotion. You saw everything there, and I really liked it. I mean, the crowd was into it. I've never gone to an event with the crowd so hot about the show. So it's like I like promotions like that. And there's promotions that I've gone to before, and I kind of start looking at, some of the things they do, and I was like, yeah, I kind of wish they, opened up a little more, and and again, it's kind of like the world we live in, and it's sad and it sucks, but hopefully things change. I mean, that's all I'll say. But yeah, politics is just, it sucks.
Yeah, I mean, look, by my own hands and the hands of others, it will change. There's no place for things like that. If you are able to do well at your job, and connect on those other levels, because there are levels to, it's not just about being good in the ring. When you have those other things, there's no reason why you can't sit at the table too.
Exactly.
And everybody will build their own tables and stuff after a while, and it's just like we can all create an ecosystem. Wrestling was an idea, a long time ago. Somebody sat down and said, hey, let's do a wrestling thing, and it's evolved from the 50s all the way to now. So it's just, I don't know, I just feel like there's definitely more checks to mark, but I think wrestling's in a good spot, and I think it'll continue to progress. Hopefully, I will have a lot to do with that, I believe so.
I hope so too, and I definitely think you will. I mean, your name's pretty big on the indies, and that's, I mean, I think so. I mean, you even said you were on average like 4 events a month, which is pretty good. I mean, I had Matthew Palmer on my show like 2 months ago, and he said that it was very hard for him to get booked. He said like there would be times where he's getting booked all the time, and that he goes all this time without being booked. So I mean, you seem to be pretty consistent, and you have a very strong fan base. And that's kind of like the next question I wanted to ask you too. So on the Q&A, I had asked like, how does it feel to be a professional wrestler, to have all these fans like idolize you and stuff like that. So kind of like I mentioned with you, like you're really popular, like promotions want you, you have a lot of fans, like you're Trish Adora. So it's like, how does it feel to be Trish Adora, to be as popular and just all these promotions wanting you? I'm sure podcasts reach out to you a lot. So like, how does it feel to be in the spotlight that you're in?
Yikes. No, it feels great. I'm really excited and honored to feel like, I feel like I was chosen to do this and to take this path and to be the person that I am now. And it took a little bit, I mean, I'd been wrestling for 4 years. And whenever I try to explain this to people who've been wrestling longer, they go, oh, and they give you the, you got time. And, and it's like, okay. But it's like, I don't want to have time. I kind of want to keep the ball moving and just kind of keep learning and growing, I guess. And I don't know. It's just, it's interesting because I feel like maybe this time last year, I didn't feel as, if I could say, I, didn't feel as, confident and, excited about where wrestling was going to take me. I was just, nervous, a little bit unsure. And, I, let's see, this time last year, I went to Japan, I went to the UK. And so once that kind of happened and people, it's kind of like you got to go elsewhere, which is interesting. You got to go away for the people around to sort of buy in a little bit. And, not, I don't believe myself to be embittered, but I have talked to other people that do feel a little bit slighted or bitter by that. And I don't know, I'm happy that people are, gravitating towards me in that way. And I'm happy that people, are enjoying, the art that I'm doing. I'm really happy about that. And I'm going to keep going and keep doing it. And I want to continue to work, so all those promotions, I'm hoping that are wanting me, feel free to reach out, Trish Adora Wrestling at gmail.com. I'm serious. Reach out. We can do a thing. No, for real. For real.
Yeah, I mean, they'll keep coming. I mean, obviously, the more popular you get, the more promotions are gonna reach out to you. I'm definitely hoping to see you at MCW again. Like that was really fun seeing you at that event. I was actually like debating on going to that event just because like I was already going to an MCW event like 2 weeks after that or something like that. It was the big Kurt Angle thing. I was like, well, I'm already going, but then I saw you were booked. I'm like, okay, well now, I definitely got to go. But yeah, I hope to see you there again, or just in general, like another event in the DMV area. I mean, me and my wife will travel as far as New Jersey, and that's kind of like that's our boundary right there. But
Awesome.
yeah, hopefully see you again soon and all that. But like as far as wrestling and stuff like that too, do you have any goals to potentially work for like a televised, promotion, Impact, AEW, WWE, or is like the indies kind of like where you want to just, because I know everyone doesn't really want to be owned by a company. They kind of like having they like being independent. They can, basically create your own schedule.
Yeah, it just depends. I think that it just depends on how I feel. I think that I'm more or less chasing feelings first, and these moments that I have where I get to, defend my title and, where fans are like, oh, I'm so inspired by you and things like that. When I get to do, cool podcasts and talk to cool people, when, I end up on Pro Wrestling Illustrated, number 173 as a debut entrant, you know what I mean? Just having all those things happen, those are the good feelings that I want. And I want to keep feeling that. The night that I won the championship, I want to feel like that. And if there is those feelings on TV, if I can create those moments and feel good about the things that I'm doing, and that means that those things are on TV, then that's where I'll be. I think that more importantly, it's about making sure that I'm always just kind of having fun. And I know that sounds I don't know how that sounds actually, but a lot of people are just saying stuff like, I wish I had more fun, before I got swept up, before, So it's just a matter of, I want to make sure that I'm doing it my way, that I feel good about my art and the things that I'm doing, that I'm able to have some elements of control, because that's the best part about being, Trish Adora. I'm in charge here. I write the script. I get to be perceived the way I would like to, and to surrender that control sometimes. It's day to day. Sometimes I just feel like I don't know if I can, But at the same time, financial stability and security is honestly gonna be the way out of the hood. So.
Mm-hmm.
Who knows? Is that on TV? Is that in, the upper indies and all these cool shows that hopefully I get put on soon?
Exactly, because like, WWE, for example, financially, that's probably the best way to go if you want to continue to be a professional wrestler, but then you sacrifice, your creative control. They control you. They will sometimes, make you change your name. Like if you go to WWE, you might not be Trish Adora. You may be Brittany Spears. I don't know. Like, you may not have, that same name. You may have a completely different gimmick that you may not be happy with. And you can tell, with some of the wrestlers, like you could tell if they're actually enjoying their gimmick or not. So, that's, another big factor. Like some people, it's not worth it, and at the same time, you don't have control over your schedule at some other promotions. You may have to, obligated to work a certain amount of days. And that's the beauty of, once again, being an independent wrestler. If you want to take off and not wrestle for 3 months, then you don't have to wrestle for 3 months. You can't do that in WWE, Impact, or even AEW. You're owned by them and stuff like that. So, you're I mean, I think you're personally at a really good point where you can do your own thing. And you were in a match in NXT as well. So, I mean, that's really cool. So, um, kind of, another question too, because I know you've been heel, you've been face. And it's funny because when I saw you MCW, you were heel. Primetime Wrestling, you were face. So, kind of like, what do you prefer, being heel or face, and like how does that work? Like, you're heel, one day, you're face the next day. Like, it's not like you're consistently a heel for a while and then you're turned face. Like, it's kind of like you're like bouncing around. So how does that kind of like work for you?
Well, it depends. I think that I usually consider my opponent first and how I feel going into the match. And, you know, some days I'm feeling, particularly aggressive and I end up, acting it out in different ways. But I feel like that heel or face is just kind of, I think, I don't want to, I'm trying to think of the best way to put this answer. You know what I mean? But let's just say this. That lately, with consistently just working on being more comfortable being cheered for. You know what I mean? It's so interesting. You would think you would like that, and it's just something that I have to just kind of get used to. So I would say that my journey to getting used to it, it's getting a little bit easier. And I believe that with me getting better at wrestling, being a face it's just becoming easier and easier, to me, I would say.
Yeah, because I mean, like, you played a really good heel, but I feel like it's hard for you to be a heel because everyone loves you. And I mean, I feel like we're in the day and age where, like, everyone loves the heels, though. Like, you see in promotions all the time, people cheer the heels. Like, being the bad guy is, like, the cool thing nowadays. But, like, with you, like, people want to cheer for you, especially with you being the Pan-African world champion. Like, a lot of people look at you as, like, a role model, basically. Like, people idolize you, and they look at you like you stand for something and you're out there doing it and all that. So I mean, I think the best way to say is you to be a face. But then once again, like you said, it depends on who your opponent is and stuff like that, and that's the one cool thing about the indies. You can be a heel, you could be a face. Once again, you're not being told what to do and who to be and stuff like that. But now the next question. Now this is non-wrestling related, and I had to ask because on the Q&A, I asked you about stuff that you like doing non-wrestling related, and you brought up video games. I am a huge gamer, so I have to ask, what are some of your video games?
Right now, I'm going hard on Crash Bandicoot. I got a Switch maybe like a year and a half ago. I'm kind of slow to kind of get my gaming collection up, but I've been playing Crash Bandicoot. I'm really stuck on Warped. I'm having a hard time. I got through maybe like the first two levels of the first one. I don't remember it being that hard. I don't know what happened or something changed in that game, but it's like super hard now. I've been playing Mario Kart. Sometimes me and my homegirls come hang out, and then we just kind of play Mario Kart or put on something like Overcooked, which is like video game Monopoly pretty much. Definitely starts a fight in my household. So those are kind of the games that I've been messing around with on my Switch lately. I'm holding out for a PS5, and yeah, I think that's when my world will kind of open up a little bit more, and I'll be able to really do what I need to do as far as gaming goes. Because I feel so, I feel particularly left out. Sometimes if you like just have a Switch, and I mean, I'm surprised my PS3 turns on at this point. I'm surprised it hasn't like exploded. So.
Yeah, my PS3, like, we were strictly using that as like a Blu-ray player for the longest time, and it finally died out. So I ended up buying my wife a PS4 for the bedroom. But yeah, like me, like I've been wanting to get the Crash Bandicoot on the remastered, just because I played it religiously when I was, young back for the PS1. And I really want to, get into it because it seems like remastered games is like the cool thing nowadays, which is fun because it's like you're playing the games that you enjoyed growing up, but with better graphics. And I'm actually waiting for Mafia to come out later this month. That was one of my favorite games for the original Xbox. It's been a minute since I played Nintendo, though. I'll be honest with you. I haven't been into Nintendo since like the 64.
Oh,
I
yeah.
briefly played the Wii, but I'm not like when I play a video game, I want to sit down and play it. I don't want to, do all the stuff like that.
That's true.
But
Yeah.
yeah, like I have a pretty large collection. I got into actually collecting retro games.
I see.
Oh yeah. Yes, I have a pretty big collection. So I did downsize recently because I'm trying to like turn my game room more into like a studio. But I don't know. Have you ever played Mass Effect?
I have not. Is it a
That,
great
that
game?
it is a great game. There's four of them, but the most recent one they sucked. The one to get into is Mass Effect 2. That was the best out of all of them. I think it got a perfect 10 on IGN. But
Oh
that's
wow.
it's one of those games where you make decisions, and those decisions have a factor in how the game ends, which is like really cool. And that seems to be kind of getting popular nowadays with gaming, like especially like I don't know if you ever heard of them, but like Until Dawn, Heavy Rain. You make all and it doesn't even just change the ending, it changes different things that happen like during the actual storyline, which makes you want to play through it again and make different decisions and just seeing what's happening and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, I mean that's really cool that you like the game and all that. And I know you mentioned you like to write as well. Is it like kind of like poetry, or like what do what do you like to write about?
Well, as of right now, they're mostly short stories or like they're ideas for like little scripts that I have, and I can't really fully flesh, or at least I feel as though I can't really fully flesh out a script right now. So I turn them into like short, concise stories. Usually they're under about 250 words. I'm kind of trying to expand it and kind of see what I can flesh out and how I feel more comfortable. Writer's block is it'll just hit you out of nowhere. You'll get going and you'll feel good about an idea, and you'll just look at the page one day and be like, oh, you know. So
Because every time I think about like someone writing, I think of like that scene from The Shining where he's like the typewriter and he cannot think of anything to write, and I'm just like, oh man, like that must be tough. Like trying to write a story. Like me personally, I'm not the most creative person, so it's like I would not know what to write about. I mean, if anything, I'm really big in like the horror movies. That's like the best I could do. But I tried like 'cause when I was younger, I was really big in the Goosebumps, and I tried like writing my own like little like horror thing. But yeah, Goosebumps, that was the bomb back in the day. Like especially at those book things or whatever they were.
Scholastic book fairs.
Book
Yeah.
fair, yes, during school. Oh my god, those were the days too. I've seen like they
Hell
definitely
yeah.
still do Goosebump books, but they don't look the same. Like they don't look as interesting. Like
Yeah.
and it sucks too because I used to have a lot, and when I moved out of my dad's because he moved to New Mexico, he sold like everything, so I lost all my books. So it's like now I kind of like want to. When the movie came, I was like I kind of want to read some of these, but yeah.
You know what's hilarious though is that from my move back from Florida to DC, I kind of lost some of my Goosebumps books too. I still have some in storage up here in DC. I've almost all of them. Almost. I think I'm missing just a couple that I lost over the time. So yeah, I'll slide you a haunted mask. I think I got like two or three or something.
I was actually I think the first book I got as well. Like
Yeah.
I don't know if that was number one or whatever. I don't remember how many I had. I had a lot. I may have had
Mhm.
all of them honestly, but I do actually have one. It's the Night of the Living Dummy.
Welcome
Like it's
to
all three of them put together. Like I remember if you clicked his mouth, his eyes would light up on the cover. Like it was the big hardcover. I made sure I kept that when I moved, but other than that, they're all gone, and it sucks. I miss them so much. But yeah, growing up in the '90s, that was a fun time. Honestly, Goosebumps,
it
Sega,
was.
Blockbuster, AOL, like all the good stuff, that we do not have any. And then
Messenger.
Messenger, yes. What else was big in the 90s? There was no social media.
I
There
was
was,
gonna say that was a huge thing of the 90s.
yeah, I remember MySpace when that first came out, what, in 2004, 2005. That was a big thing. And it's funny, one of my friends on Twitter actually posted a tweet about, the top 8, how people used to argue about that all the time. I remember how fun that was. Me and my friend had like a competition where like if I moved him down, he would move me down out of like bitterness, and then we would keep moving. Eventually, we took each other off completely, but then a week later we put each other back on. But yeah, those are the days. I miss
Yeah.
all of that, and it's like you don't really know what you have until you lost it. Like all those good things we grew up in. Like I miss going to like a Blockbuster and seeing,
Yes. Hell yeah.
yeah,
Blockbuster is dope. Oh my gosh, that's where you would get all the where we would get like the old school UFC little tapes and stuff. We would sit and like watch all of those. We got like they had all of them. They had like from one up to maybe not all of them, not a couple. They had like the first 20 or so, and I remember getting like 1, 3, and 5, and just like going ham. Watch those like all the time. Blockbuster was awesome.
it was
Damn.
like
Yeah.
Blockbuster was more like of a 90s thing for me that in the 2000s a Hollywood Video opened up by us, and that was because the location, it was like a big building. It felt like you were kind of like in a movie theater kind of theme. And me and my dad, we would always go there like on a Friday, rent a movie or two, and there was a Subway like right next door, so we would go get Subway, go home and watch it, and just like the memories and all. Like, I mean, Netflix is cool. I love Netflix, but it's just not the same. Even Redbox, like it's so convenient because we have one at our local grocery store. We go in, get a movie, get our groceries, go home. But it's just like it's not the same when it comes to the experience that you would get. So now this is actually something I just thought of, and I don't know why I didn't even have this on my notes. So I want to and this is back to like wrestling. So for the last and final question I have for you, how did you get the name Queen of DC? Did you come up with that, or did someone else come up with that?
I didn't come up with that. um, Lolo McGrath is kind of one of the first people that kind of started to manifest that for me and say that out loud. A big thank you to her. Timmy Lurette and someone else who just started to like say that and post that and just sort of manifest that for me. And word of mouth kind of caught it and is doing something cool with it. So I
Yeah.
appreciate it.
And then social media, helps it spread, like fire. So, I mean, I know I use it every time I post something about you. So I like it. I think it's really cool. It's, instead of, because everyone calls themselves queen, but, you're the queen of DC. So it kind of, fits pretty well.
I believe so.
So, Trish, yeah, that's all the questions I had listed, and I even was able to ask more. So, I definitely, have to thank you again for being on the show. Like, like I mentioned, this was a big deal for me, so I was really glad to have you on the show. And, obviously, I feature you on the website in the Q&A, but like the show, like this is big. I know this takes a lot more time, and this was really special for me to have you on. So thank you so much again.
I appreciate it. Thank you. Always happy to chat. You're one of the first people that kind of like reached out and at, a point where things were starting to change in my career. So, I'm happy that we kind of got to link up too and, chat. I appreciate it. And I appreciate all the love and everything. I appreciate the shirt. I appreciate the picture back there. I peep.
Oh yeah, that's like a
I
funny story too, because like I used to have like an Ember Moon standee in the background of my videos, but like I kind of want to have something a little bit more professional. Like I thought, okay, well, let me create a collage. I'll have the O Face logo, then I'll have all like my favorite wrestlers. Everyone on there's pretty much from the Indies, other than Ember Moon, because I don't know if you know, but the name O Face comes from her finisher. So yeah, like a lot of people don't know about that. They're always like, "Where'd you get O Face from?" And I was like, "Well, Ember Moon," because I was gonna call the podcast Eclipse Wrestling, but there's a page on Facebook called Eclipse Wrestling. So for trademark reasons, I wanted to make sure. So like O Face. But yeah, so yeah, do you want to share any of your social media with all the listeners?
Yes. So I'm at Trish Adora 202. And that is on Instagram, that's on Twitter. I do have an athlete page on Facebook. It's called Around the Way Girl. You can reach me at those three places.
All right, everyone, make sure you look her up on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Also, for us, make sure you give us a subscribe on YouTube. Follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at O-Face Wrestling. Thank you all for tuning in today. And then one final thank you again, Trish, for joining us today on O-Face Wrestling.
Thanks so much. I appreciate you having me.
No
I hope I answered all
problem.
your questions well.
You did. It was very well, very informational. I really loved it a lot. So, yeah, you did great.
Thank you.
You're welcome. And thank you all for tuning in again. See you next Friday on our next episode.